All right, here's my second video. This one I'm going to cover phase shifts. So, the phase shift for each graph is different because if you remember from our notes, each time I change the perspective I'm looking at, I change where I'm looking at the graph, I'm having a phase shift more than likely. Basically, if I don't start at the origin like my sine graph is, I'm going to have a phase shift of some kind. So your phase shift is where your starting point is. So, to clarify, let's do cosine first. This is my phase shift, the one to the far left. I understand this is typically the phase shift line I also draw. Understand that in this context, this is just to show where my curve ends. It's just to help me focus on what I need to focus on. So, that's not the phase shift line. Where you start is. So, to figure out the phase shift, I need to figure out what this number is here. So, I've kind of covered up everything in here. So, let me make this a bit easier. This is the negative pi. This line is. This is negative 2 pi. So this line is going to be halfway between negative pi and negative 2 pi. So this will be negative 3 pi over 2. So to get in between these two, we're going to have to break this down into fourths, if you will. And I got to think about this real quick. This would be 6 pi over 4. This would be 7 pi over 4, 8 pi over 4. Yes. So this is 7 pi over 4. And if it helps, this was 8 pi over 4. So I would just need to go down 1 and clarify they are negative. So that's how I was able to get this number. So this is my phase shift for cosine for this particular curve. X equals negative 7 pi over 4. And then reminder, the goal is to build an equation from this information. So for your equation, this needs to be equal to the x, all of it needs to equal 0. So to get it in that form, I need to move the 7 pi over 4 over here by adding it. So I need to write this as x plus 7 pi over 4 equals 0. So that I can write my equation correctly. Okay, sine function that I chose starts here at the origin, ends here. This is my starting point. Starting point is on the origin like it's supposed to be. So there is no phase shift here. I did not move it left or right. So this has no phase shift. Any other curve I choose would have a phase shift. This is the only one that does not because it starts at the origin. Hopefully I made it clear that this goes by the starting point, and then your phase shift is just your distance from the origin, which is why the origin is so important here. If you start at the origin, no phase shift. You don't start at the origin, figure out how far you are away from it, that kind of thing. Okay, something I want to mention real quick, I forgot to mention in the last video. When you choose your curves, you'll have graphs like number 2, for instance, where you don't have as many curves, or number 3. So more than likely when you choose your sine and cosine, they're going to overlap, unfortunately. So just do the best you can with the color coding or what have you to help you be successful, whatever that looks like for you. Just make sure you're careful, is all I'm saying. Okay, that is all I'm going to do on phase shifts. I've got one more video coming on vertical shifts.